Okay, now I'm going to start the cast.
Cool.
Okay, let's wait till it actually goes live on Twitch so that we can make sure that everything is working. If somebody wants to check the Twitch real quick just to make sure it's not.
Yeah, I'm on it.
I'm getting an
fantastic.
ad. I'm getting an ad.
Your own channel?
Yeah.
Glorious.
That feels real bad.
I get an ad for my own channel. Feels bad.
That's amazing.
I'm not partnered, but I still get an ad. Feels bad, man. It's like an HP ad. All right. Okay, so we should be right about where you can actually hear sound. So check the sound. Do.
Yep.
Okay, good.
We're good.
All right.
Yep.
So we're going to start in 3, 2, 1. Hey, Summoners, it's September 29th, 2016, and welcome to episode 6 of Summoner Sift, the League of Legends podcast. With me today, I have two very distinguished gentlemen. I've got Projector.
Hey guys, good to be here.
And Contractor.
Hey guys, it's nice to be back.
All right. And again, I'm the Benson. Today, we've got some great topics to discuss. Lots of listener questions today. But first off, I want to know, how are you guys doing? Have you been playing some League?
I have not been playing that much recently. Thank you. I've been got a crap ton of new hours at work, so good thing. So I've been able to kind of limit most of my playing to the games we've been playing on Tuesday.
That's how you build up so you can get that sweet skins. So now you can afford to just drop. So you work so that you can put money into your other work, which is League of Legends.
You mean my real job?
Your real job, exactly.
Your passion project.
Oh man.
I've been pretty good. I'm starting to look into some new champions to learn. Just kind of change things up, especially since Rek'Sai has been nerfed into the ground, no pun intended. And so I'm looking at picking up like Hecarim in the jungle, and I bought Jace today, so I want to learn him in the top lane. I know he's actually pretty strong in the meta right now, so I'm kind of wanting to learn him a little bit. And so I'm just I'm at this weird point where I kind of want to learn some new things, but I'm also going back to basics. Picked up Nocturne again. Now that I've learned a few other things, I'm focusing back on Nocturne for my climb and playing him a lot more.
Yeah, I mean your Nocturne is sick. It's really good. I don't think I've lost a game with you on Nocturne yet.
Nocturne is my Nocturne is really good, surprisingly. Like
including the games we played yesterday, I was very very impressed by it.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been playing. I'm off. I haven't been playing the Mordekaiser account much lately because I just haven't had time. Been trying to help some other people climb and play some games, and then we've done the ranked fives experiment, which has been going pretty well, I think. Playing some. So me and Projector actually have two different ranked fives teams. So we have one that's mostly like silver gold MMR, and we're just trying to learn. And that team got placed in like bronze 4, I think.
Yeah, in the actual ranked fives, yeah.
Which in ranked fives might as well be gold, because I mean, we're gonna get into that in a minute. But then we have the Summoners Sift podcast ranked fives, which we've been playing, which we're generally playing. It's feast or famine, because in the other one we're playing against like silvers, and in that one we play only against diamonds, like exclusively diamonds. Because we won like 2 games, so we won what 3 and 2 in the placements for that, I think.
3-2 for placements, yeah.
Yeah, and ended up silver 4, I think.
Yeah,
which I think is pretty good
for game 5 of the series of the provisionals. All D5 people in the enemy team and stuff.
Yeah, and that team was like gold 2. So ranked 5's queue very difficult, by the way.
It's very different. It's
very different game, much more controlled, and be prepared that 2-3 games in your placements, prepare to get stomped by a diamond in your lane. Although I think that last game where we played, I had to top against that Demi before. I think I actually performed pretty well. I didn't get destroyed. I felt pretty good, and I actually outfarmed
we got punished
him,
in the mid game. That's what happened.
Yeah. But so that was a lot of fun. I mean, the ranked fives, if you're not playing ranked fives, I highly recommend it because it's a great way to play and learn a completely different game than solo queue. It is totally different, but not have to stress so much about MMR, you know.
I agree. I feel like 5v5's ranked is really the only real League of Legends, and everything else is a cheap imitation.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. That's a fair point. I think.
I think it's interesting because, man, like, good fives teams, like, there is a switch that happens, like, and it happens at different points of the game, right? Where, like, you're like, oh man, this game is going really well and everything is great. And then those good rank fives teams just throttle you and just like break your, they like side kick your leg, break your knee, and then club you over the head. And then suddenly the game is over and you're like, what just happened? Like, we were crushing this game, and it just all of a sudden, like, in the blink of an eye, like, those games turn. I mean, it is not like a solo queue where there's like that back and forth momentum. Man, like, good ranked fives teams just put you away, and like, it is over. And
it's interesting. Like, in fives, you notice, like, I think we had one game where we could tell exactly what fight lost us the game, and it was early in the game, like super early. In solo queue, you could lose an early fight and still come back, and the game can change. But in ranked fives, like, you lose that one fight, you ain't winning anymore. Like, it's just weird how much more things get punished and challenged.
There's not that awkward phase of everybody just kind of running around and doing things. It's like people trying to take objectives, where everybody's like, well, I don't know, like, my tower's down and where do I go? I don't know. I guess I'll go back top lane and just sort of push. I'll fight this guy. And you don't go like 5-0 in lane, because like, if you go 2-0 in lane, your lane is over and you're getting destroyed. And like, so it's those small advantages feel so much more magnified in ranked fives.
I think it was a shame that we lost it, but it was a very close. I think up until the start of the mid game, I believe it was 9-9 or 9-7 for team kills. Mm-hmm. So the game was very, very, very close up until that point. And then once that additional team fight happened, because like, we were super ahead bot lane, they were super ahead top lane, and then like the mid laners were kind of even. With the junglers were also fairly even. But as soon as that happened and it flip flopped, and then they got like basically 4 kills for almost nothing. Then the game, it was so much harder to win that point. We did not have an advantageous position past that point at all.
It was crazy. I mean, and especially you start to realize like what actually wins your lane, because in solo queue, winning your lane is just like just destroying the other guy and like, getting like 3 kills on him and, wrecking the turret, and he's just like a full item behind you, and that's like winning your lane in solo queue. But in like ranked fives, it's like, oh, I'm like 20 CS ahead, and now my jungler comes top and ends this lane, and it's over.
Yep.
But like, you won the lane, like clearly you won the lane because you were 20 CS ahead, or like he TP'd first, or those little things. Like, it's just one little thing that makes the difference. So the win and loss is, I guess, it just magnifies throughout the game, right? It's like only 20 ACS is winning the lane, and then that winning the lane snowballed the rest of the game, and it went from there. So I highly, especially toward the end of the season, if you've already hit your goals, and hopefully you have based on like previous conversations, because good luck at the end of the year.
I know, right?
It's a great way to like play some League of Legends and try to learn, but not have to worry about like MMR and not, just kind of play. So we've had a good time with it. So
agreed.
Yeah. So, I mean, that leads us right into our first topic, I think, for today, which is we're going to talk about building a comp, right? So everybody says, like, you hear this a ton on the LCS streams, and everybody likes to use it in solo queue, although it virtually, that's always the excuse. Oh, their comp was better than ours. We can't win. So what are we talking about when we talk about building a comp?
In my opinion, I think a comp is just basically building a team where all 5 of your champions have some sort of synergy with each other, whether it's a specific synergy or in general. Maybe your team has a whole bunch of CC, or in the case of like Yasuo comps, maybe most of your team has some sort of knockup that syncs really well with a Yasuo engage, things like that. So building a comp really, I think, focuses around the synergy between your champions on your team.
What about you? Contractor?
Yeah.
What do you think when you agree with that?
I agree, especially for being like the solo queue setting. I feel that's the part where you don't build as much for the synergy. You build it to fill. Because when that guy ghost picks Yasuo as the 5th pick on your team, it doesn't matter what you pick. If they don't ban or pick Yasuo, that guy's going Yasuo no matter what.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where you're like, he's going to do it. You're not happy about it, but you need to make it work anyway. So you just pick someone who could do so.
Yeah,
that's you building a team comp with or without him.
I can't tell you how many times I've had Renekton up. I'll be last pick, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna play Renekton. I'll play Renekton. And then my jungler goes Xin Zhao, and my mid goes Zed, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm not Renekton,
Guess we need some AP in here. I guess
we need a little AP up in this mug. And that's generally what we talk about in solo queue. Hey, don't go all AD. Don't, somebody needs to play a tanky champion. You need some form of CC. So you're just kind of filling what your team doesn't have. Where you lack. Whereas in fives, you're building actual comps, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what are some of the comps that you would be trying to build in fives? Because again, I'm relatively new to fives, so.
If I could have Echo Orianna on my team every game in a 5v5 setting, I would have it on my team every game.
Well, okay, so I think that's one. So there are backline divers, things like Echo top, Lissandra mid. Things like that really focus on diving into that backline and deleting someone. It depends on what you want to do with your team, what your specific objective, whether it's team fights or otherwise. Are you picking an early game comp that's win condition is you need to win every lane, or you need to win these 2 lanes by 15 minutes, whatever it looks like. Or are you picking a late game comp that plays super safe for the first 20 minutes of the game, and then all of a sudden their on switch comes up, and then you just raffle stomp the other team down into bronze? There are different kind of ideologies for how you want to build that comp as a fives team.
Yeah, that's things like poke comp, hard engage, disengage, wave clear, split, those types of things. And I think a lot of that boils around especially in fives, and I think we're sort of doing this inadvertently, but it goes around your strengths and where your strongest players are and the people that can carry. And I think LCS teams to an extent do this, right? Is they learn okay, we win when this guy gets fed on this type of champion.
Yep.
When this happens, when this scenario happens, we tend to win. So I think that we've sort of inadvertently done this because we know that our bot lane tends to be probably our strongest lane, and so we build we're sort of moving toward the I'm going to play kind of a support, support as jungler, and then we play a TF mid, who, and especially I think Contractor would say this, all he's supposed to do is camp the bot lane. That's all TF's good for, right? So come bot, please just ult bot.
No, it is almost always correct to do that. Every single game is TF. Yeah. It's just so potent. They don't have a whole lot of game against it. And depending on the lane, you just get free kills on anything. Anything with a Jhin or a Soraka, some of the more heavily picked champions right now, just fold to a TF gank.
Yeah, they just don't know what to do. And so it's interesting, and I started to notice that and immediately, I realized my champion pool didn't really fit what we were trying to do. I was well, okay, so we have this bot lane that just is crushing them every game, and I'm trying to play these solo queue champions like Darius, Renekton, and they don't work in that. I just get kited forever. I'm just, I'm Darius, and I'm just kind of, and yeah, I had some okay games, but it's it doesn't work. I'm not the carry, so I need to be picking.
It's not as efficient.
Yeah, it's not as efficient. I need to be picking the Malakais, the Malphites, the big, I'm going to keep guys off of you. I'm going to support my bot lane and just make them live. And, so I literally today I spent some time trying to, play some other champions and what can I play? I ended up getting, of course, naturally, you go into solo queue and you want to learn top lane, and you get jungle 3 out of 4 times, which is the exact flip opposite of the way I would normally want it to be, right?
Yeah.
But I did learn that Poppy is brutal, really early in the game, though. I got destroyed by a Poppy.
That was rough.
I have seen Poppy get a surprisingly high number of level 1 first bloods, dude, with no ignite.
This guy killed me level 2, no ignite. I was playing Darius, and he just straight up, literally, He traded with me at level 1, right? Which I thought was crazy. I was like, why would this guy trade with me? And did like 60% of my health, and then just killed.
Crap.
Then at level 2 just killed me, and I was like,
that percent health damage on the second proc of Q is like ridiculous. Cannot state that enough. Like it's huge.
Crazy. Yeah, I mean, Poppy is a legit pick right now. I think like people are gonna, not to get off track, but Poppy I think is gonna come back pretty soon, at least in solo.
Well, jumping back to comps, I think, in fives, if you look at LCS, the players tend to be more meta slaves, where they're like, what's in the meta and how can we play that most effectively? Because the best players on the most broken champs will pretty much auto win the game. Like, if your macro is solid as a team. Whereas in fives, you don't have that highest level thing, so you can't abuse the broken stuff as much. So you're much more flexible in building comps around the champions that around either the best players on your team or the best champions in your arsenal. And I think that's the big difference. That's one of the big differences between LCS comps and like just typical ranked fives comps for your gold, platinum, or silver or bronze players.
Well, that's because a lot of times like those players don't know how to play the champ, right? Like they don't switch. Yeah. They don't play champs as fast. Like so, it's not like the pros where Fiora's in the meta, so I need to spam like 50 games of Fiora and learn how Fiora works and, get good at it. And also, like, generally, these guys are pros for a reason. They learn the champs a lot faster than people do. And especially since they're so specialized in those roles, they probably played Fiora, like, back when she was good 6 months ago, back then. But now she's back in the meta, so they're going to start playing her again. You don't see as much of that in solo queue where they play the champion they're good at, right?
Well, and they're spending like 15 hours a day playing League of Legends, whereas you and me have time for maybe 3 games a day. Like it's a different level, so they have the time to learn those new champions. Where you, as a typical player, kind of have to just rely on whatever your best picks are and work around those,
or just play every game.
Or be a one trick, yeah. Another thing I'd like to point out for comps wise is not to build one dimensional ones. Like we were talking about earlier with the all AD and all AP. When I talk about one dimensional, I'm also talking about only having a singular win condition.
Yeah. Where like all you have is a Vagar.
Mage. Yeah, exactly. And he's the only person who can really kill someone on enemy team or whatever. Because if they know how to play, and this is also relevant to champ select as well. If you're doing this, and they end up counterpicking that, your one-dimensional team comp doesn't do anything against them, and it's really hard to end that game. You basically have to play that map and that position against the enemy team in order to get the advantages and in order to win. So like you need to build a team comps with multiple win conditions almost always. I like synergy, and synergy is also very important. Stuff like the Echo Orianna, where you do have those backline divers and that the potential for these really big plays, and to do a lot of easily attainable things on relatively low ultimate cooldowns, so you can repeat them and obviously get more than one team off of it. But you also need to be able to win without that. Like if you build Echo Orianna and they have a 5-man team of disengage, poke, and split push, you're not going to do anything against them. You're going to go team fight them. They're just going to push you away. They're going to stop to use their abilities. They're going to buy themselves time. They're going to basically push you to other parts of the map.
Yep, and let Jax or Zed just push to the other side forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once you use those cooldowns, if you don't kill anyone, you're done.
That was your thing. We do this, yeah.
Honestly, at this level, at our level of the game, well, and James, you may see this a little bit differently, because you're higher than us. Really, it's about who plays the map better, not necessarily the picks themselves. I mean, like last night, someone put Ignite on me in one of our games, and I ran away under turret, and their Bard ulted our turret at the perfect time that I would still die from the Ignite tick just before the ult hit, and then the tower was disabled, and they dove the rest of you. It was so perfectly timed. I jaw drop in that moment. But
that was a super sick, soul crushing boulder.
I did have Bard and on that ultimate.
It was just sick. Gross. But if you can play your champion well and play with the rest of your team well, that matters, I think, more. If you're doing the rotations correctly and otherwise, because that's going to win games at our level of play over your pick itself.
Yeah, and I think most of the time, again, that goes back to the original point of, hey, find out who can carry. like on the ship. It's not always like carrying by killing everyone. It's like, oh, if he's on Bard, like, yeah, we have to adjust our comp. Like, we're not going to have the tankiest support in the world, things like that. But he just straight up carries on it. So like, warp your comp around like what you're good at. When do we win?
I play Rek'Sai. I don't have a high kill participation, but I put some deep wards down, can tell our bottom lane that they're junglers across the map, and then our jungler all-ins and kills them. It's kill participation without actually being there, but because of something that I did and pressure I applied elsewhere. Those are some of the intangibles that stats and match history doesn't track.
Yeah. And I think that like actually leads us to kind of the next point of like when you're putting pressure on the map that allows you to take objectives, right? So like just because you're not taking kills, like kills aren't the only objective. Surprise. I know those that play solo queue, this is a shock, and everyone is going to be like amazed, like holy, like isn't the objective to kill the other team? It's like, no, actually it's to kill the Nexus, right? Let's take the objective. Yeah. So that leads to objectives, like kills are just like a small objective that lead to a larger objective, stuff like turrets. So what we kind of wanted to talk about was like, hey, like again, we talked a little bit about this last week and got a lot of positive comments about it, like how to like pick which objective you're going to go for, like the Baron versus Elder argument. And like, so we wanted to kind of go through like maybe a checklist of like, here are the objectives that you want to be looking for in what order and things like that.
Yep. So the objective checklist, if you've just done a team fight or made this big pick, here's kind of the order of things I think are the most important. First thing you say is, can we take a turret? If you can, you take turret. Then, if you can't take a turret, the next thing is Baron. If I can't take turret, can we take Baron? If you can't take Baron because of their death timers being too short, or your guys are just in a really bad position to take it, or you're too low, can you take Dragon or Elder Dragon in that case, if you're on that side of the map? If you can't do that, and then this next step should be in all of the steps. Can you put down vision? Can you put down vision in their deep side, in whatever side of the jungle you're on? Whatever step you're on, you should always leave vision. If you're going to take a tier 2 turret, go leave it, have the support roam really quick and leave some awards on the way up. And then last but not least is clear their jungle camps, if you can. So that is, and push some lanes. But I think that's the general thing. The only time I would say that Baron supersedes taking a turret is if like you're pushing their inhib turrets, you've been having trouble breaking those, and you're only going to get one inhib turret and maybe the inhib itself. I'd rather get Baron, because Baron will enable you to take more turrets than just that one. So that would be the only time. Otherwise, if you can take a turret, if it's a tier 1 or tier 2, I would always say take the turret first. What are you guys' thoughts?
If I can't get 2 turrets off of it, just the team gold and the buff, considering how it makes it so easy to kill at least one tower from that point, I feel like the Baron actually becomes more valuable.
Yeah. The later the game goes, I think the Baron is more important.
Yeah, especially if I want to crack the base, Baron is very important for having that 4-1 push or that 1-3-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's all what it's about, is like, can you take a turret after you take Baron? Like, are you going to be able to crack their, like, are they a 5-man teamfight squad and you just killed their support and it's going to take you 10 seconds, 15 seconds to kill Baron, and then their support's probably going to be up by the time you teamfight them, and then they're going to teamfight you and you're not going to get a turret? Okay, maybe don't take Baron, maybe just take the turret because you don't know if you're going to get it elsewhere, right? But I think most of the time, like, yeah, I'm of the same. I actually, I really want to know Contractor's thoughts on this, and this came up while you were saying them, but I'm in a lot of situations as a jungler where, and I assume you being better at bot lane, you're going to know the answer to this, so I have faith, okay? So don't let me down. So a lot of times I will gank bot lane, and we will get a kill, right? Maybe we'll kill the ADC, maybe we'll kill the support. And it'll be relatively early in the game, like level 3, level 4, maybe it's my first gank of the game. And when we do that, there's always this sort of decision process that we go through where it's like, can we take this turret? Can we not take this turret? Like, depending on the time frame, like, if the turret hasn't taken any damage, like, do we try to push the turret or do we take Dragon? Like, when does the tipping point happen for you? Like, when should we take Dragon? When should we take the turret?
I think if it's very early in the game, the Dragon's almost always going to be more worth it, because killing the tower so early in the game actually usually screws you over. If you're playing against any competent ADCs, kind of free the lane, which makes it so hard for you to get farm in the first place, and it opens up a lot of opportunities for the enemy jungler to gank and to restabilize that lane and then kill your tower. I like the dragon, even if it's something like Cloud Drake, where it's not quite as valuable, but you still want to get it off the map. You still want to make it available for your team, and it's depending on the HP levels when you complete the gank. It should be relatively, safe to take that dragon. You shouldn't really be dying. If everyone's very low, and your mid's not in a great position to be able to either 1v1 if they try to roam, or to be able to support you if they come down, and the jungler is someone like early game Lee Sin, you're like 40% HP, and you want to go do that dragon, maybe you should just get the damage on the turret, but not necessarily kill it. Like, chunk it to about 80%, or you can kill it whenever you want to. Like, where you could as a jungler come back to the lane, not even have to get a gank, but just pressure the lane, just walk forward in the 3v2, push the lane to the tower, and then kill the tower.
I gotcha, okay. Because I feel like I've been in that push-pull situation a lot, like especially in solo queue, where I'm like, okay, we got our kill, now what do we do? And like, it's a lot of times it's right around like the 5-6 mark, where it's like, we could probably kill this turret if we really tried, but should we just take dragon? I don't know, And I've been prioritizing the dragon for the most part, but I think a lot of people's priorities shifted when they started doing the first crack turret thing, where it was like, oh. But I think what happens is when you get that first kill in the bot lane and then you take dragon, generally your bot lane is going to be ahead. So the chances of like them getting doubled when the other, bot lane comes back is a lot lower.
I will say, if you do get a successful gank off and you prioritize dragon, that's fine. But push the wave so you deny the enemy ADC. Like, get that wave to their turret at least, when in doubt, because you want to be able to still deny them or force their support to make a choice of, do I try to manage this wave and get as much XP from the turret, or do I try and stop that dragon? And occasionally you have a support that's dumb enough to go try and 1v3 and stop the dragon, and you get another kill out of it, but you force them into a place where they have to make a choice, and both choices are not optimal.
The other thing I think that you touched on that I think is super important that a lot of people don't see is that vision is an objective. Like, let's not forget that, guys. Like, vision, it's a small one, and it's smaller than kills, right? Like, it's less, but I think that
it enables so much.
It enables so much. So I actually think it does sort of, like, it's on here somewhere. Like, kills actually probably are on this list somewhere. It's like, oh, well, we could go get this jungle camp, or I could go get this kill. So I feel like kills were are right around that vision jungle camps, like roam, like free kill. But I think that vision is a small objective, like a deep ward in their jungle, and it actually scales, I think, based on their jungler, like Evelynn. Getting a ward on Evelynn's, say, her chickens or her wolves, can be huge. I mean, huge. It can change the game. If you're able to maybe push your guy out of lane, as a mid laner, and you're able to walk up and ward their chickens, or their raptors, I guess. That's a win, because now you can tell, like, okay, where is Evelynn? Like, where is she? Because you don't have that information otherwise. So I think it's important that people start to think of vision as like an objective that you are trying to obtain, because I don't think a lot of people do that. They see it as like this upkeep thing, right? Where it's like, oh, I have to ward so that I don't die. It's like, no, you want to ward. So
you always want wards. Like, if you have wards and you just want to fight, you should be placing those wards in a place that they're going to give you valuable information. And the further that your team is, like, the further up or closer to their nexus you get, the further up your vision line should be. Now,
granted, like, the vision, you have to be able to use the information that it gives you, right? In order to really properly utilize it. But this is something that happened in some of our games yesterday, as we had the enemy jungler, she was an Elise, and she backed on a pink ward when Baron was still up. We saw her complete her entire B, she beat, she went back to the base, and we were in position to do Baron, so we, as a team, immediately went to it, because we were already on top of the Baron, and took it. And that would not have been possible, one, without the vision, and two, not without basically Elise being on it. So sometimes the ward, all it does is gives you a little bit of information where someone is. Sometimes it gives you a little bit of security. That gives you that peace of mind to be able to know that the jungler's not on the right side of you, so you'll be able to all in them and probably get away by the time, if they are nearby, to be able to come in on you. Or it gives you huge wins, like a free Baron buff, because the enemy jungler decided to be
Vision wins
probably
games.
the worst possible time.
Yeah, I mean that was crazy, and that's also something that never happened. That would never happen in solo queue, right? Like where I mean, it was crazy where he just happened to go B on that little wraparound bush right on top of their red buff wall. And there was a pink ward in there, and he just didn't see it. I don't know how that happened, and he just went B right on top, and we just went on Baron. Like, I mean, we
almost thought it was a bait. We were like, wait, is he serious right now? Like the whole 8-second recall, we were arguing with ourselves about it.
That's so crazy because I remember that as that guy was recalling, we were already running toward Baron. He hadn't even recalled yet, and we were like already like beelining toward Baron because we knew he was going to go back. So.
I want to say this, and then we can move on. And we can put this in the show notes, I think, like the episode description or whatever. Last night I played a Nocturne game on my Silver 1 account, and it was a game where we killed them several times, and we had the choice of Dragon, Baron, or Turrets. And I shot called for most of the game, and ended up prioritizing turrets every time. But I uploaded the whole video, the whole game to YouTube, and in the description of the YouTube video, there are timestamps for all of the major calls. So if you're looking for examples of why you should prioritize different objectives, or maybe some weird situations, that game I think is a good example of it, even if I didn't do everything perfectly. So if you're looking for an example, you can definitely check that out, or just message me or email us at summonersift@gmail.com, and we can send you that link and you can see it yourself.
And I'm sure you will get tons of constructive, friendly comments regarding
from Reddit. Yeah. Why you shouldn't have even been there? You're dumb. Why'd you die there? Oh, okay. The whole game's not perfect, but
that's what we live for, baby. Like,
that's right.
I love that.
That's right. Reddit is my coach. Reddit is my coach.
The best of coaches, right? So, any more thoughts on that? Can we stick a fork in that one? I think we kind of beat that one to death. All right. Okay, so we're going to go right into listener questions because we have a ton. Thank you so much, listeners. You came out in force. I'm going to assume that it has nothing to do with trying to get free RP. The zero, not a thing. Like, nobody would ever want that, right? Like, you don't want skins. Nobody needs those sweet, sweet championship skins. Nobody wants that. Zed's, that skin looks all right. It's whatever.
You only want the bug skins because those are actually pay-to-win skins.
Yeah, pay-to-wins. Those are the best. So, yeah, we've got a number of listener questions, so we're just going to kind of jump into these. And I'll tell you, it was really tough to pick a winner this week. So thank you so much for sending in these questions. Please, if you haven't already, please keep sending them in. If you have, please keep sending them in. We'd love to. You can get a chance to win every week. We're not going to, prioritize one person over another. We're going totally off the merit of the question. You can send those questions to summonersift@gmail.com. Really easy. Summonersift@gmail.com. And just, give us your in-game name and your question, and we'll try to answer it on air. So,
yep.
So Contractor, you want to read this first one?
Yes.
All right.
This is going to be a question from Liger Fury. It says, "Hi, Summoners Rift. I'm Liger Fury from EU West, and I'm a new fan of the show. Recently, Riot posted a discussion about the recent Shen nerf that made his low ELO win rate drop. What do you guys think Riot should do to balance Shen? People on Reddit gave their thoughts having top lane in mind if Shen's ult had a range limit, and they compensated that nerf with base stat buffs. I'd like to know if you think he'd be more viable in other roles. I've already played him exclusively jungle or support as a pocket pick."
Yeah, so we actually talked about this a little bit earlier, but Shen has always kind of been a hot button for me of how he was designed, because as everybody knows, I think if you've listened to the cast a little bit, I'm big into game design. Like, that's my thing. Like, I look at League from a game design perspective. I like to evaluate champions based on how well designed is this. It's not always whether they're good, whether they're bad. Like, how much do I like this champion? And I feel like Shen was in need when they reworked him. He was in need of a rework, right? Because he was an antiquated champion and he had a lot of thematic issues and things like that. But I think that Shen's design is inherently flawed. And I think that when Shen was designed, he was designed to do a thing that they didn't know was like an entire strategy in the game yet, right? And I may be making a leap here, but I'm pretty sure this is the case. So Shen was designed to not have to actually like participate in a team fight, but still be able to be there. He was able to like go off on his own, kind of do his own thing, push the waves, and then like support the team from the other side of the map. He was like a supporty, tanky sort of champion. That's cool, right? They didn't realize that like, hey, split pushing is like an entirely valid strategy for like actually just winning the game. It's like a win condition, right? So Shen early in the game was just insanely balanced. I don't know if anybody played during that time, but especially Season 2, Season 3, I believe it was around that time when Shen was just broken and he was just banned every game. Like everyone banned Shen every game. And so Shen is always going to have this issue. As long as Shen's R works the way it does, Shen is always going to be either broken in pro play. And I'm talking about from pro play. Like there's a little difference where I think there's a tipping point for base stats, and I think Shen's probably at it right now, where he becomes sort of bad in solo queue because your team doesn't know how to play with him. But I think in pro play, Shen is always going to be either completely useless, like completely, because he can't hold a lane, he can't push, like whatever, or he's going to be insanely good because of just the nature with items where he can push a lane and still be there for a team fight. That's why TP is insane, right? And Shen has a TP built in with a shield that is just
that
insane.
saves people.
Yeah. So balancing Shen is always going to be sticky. So any thoughts on how they could?
I'd like the range indicator, similar to how they nerfed Pantheon's ultimate, where they gave it only a limited range usage. Because like right now, like I think one of the most frustrating parts about Shen is that he can TP to support the bot lane or the mid lane of the jungler in the middle of a fight, and then he almost always brings TP because there's no reason for Shen to bring Exhaust or Ignite unless he's support to immediately go back to top lane. So there's no punishment. There's no of those awkward stages where you TP to help an ally in her team or to secure a kill or to basically gank for the bot lane, and then they have to complete their B, walk back to lane. You know, there's no punishment for it. He goes in, he has to do that job where he split pushes, and then he can just go right back. So I think the range could be okay. As well.
Don't you think that would just gut him? Like completely gut him? I mean, because man, like Pantheon was huge in pro play for a while, and he has just disappeared. Like he's just gone. Like when they took that global out of it, I mean, he was in for an oak like a little bit, like as a jungler kinda, but man, like they dumpstered him as far as pro play, and I feel like if they gave him a range, like man, it would be tough.
If they gave him range, they would have to give him a stronger lane. That's what I think. If they gave him a range limit, they'd have to give him a stronger lane.
Tiger mentioned that in the question where he said basically to nerf the range, but to give him base stat boosts to make him a little bit better at that, which is I'm okay because then it gives him the laning phase. You know, it actually makes it to where he is basically either has to do the thing that TF does, where you either walk from mid lane down towards the bot lane in order to ganking time or to get the range for it, or walk down the lane towards bot lane in order to get that, and then kind of like either do a 4-man gank with the jungler where you come in at the same time, or support the jungler, and he turns him probably into a more valuable pick for someone who plays with a counter jungler, because you're always going to be one to be fighting those junglers, so you're always going to be able to support them almost immediately, as well as helping mid. Like you play with a Zed or an Ahri, someone who's able to pressure the opponent and then again dive them in the tower and have a lot of that safety net of the Shen ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm dubious at best. I'm not so sure that I think if they gave him some sort of range like indicator where he couldn't go bot like just at will, I think that Shen would just be garbage and no one would play him. Like
I agree.
Like I think he'd be trash and like no one would ever play him. He'd be terrible. So I feel like at a certain point you have to sort of embrace what Shen is and understand that like the strength of Shen is the whole like, hey, he's able to split push a lane and like he can sort of pressure a side of the map. They have to build him around making the ult not as free as it is, right? Like, and I don't know how you do that. You'd have to think on it. But they need to reward like really good ult usage, but punish him like crazy when he doesn't use it. And I don't know exactly what that is. Currently, TP sort of like covers that, like you said, where if you have a bad Shen ult and like the back off or like you don't really get anything out of it, it's okay because he just TPs back top, and it's like, well, okay.
Exactly.
Then he just does this boring lane phase that he does right now.
That's what I don't like about Shen, is because there is no real punishment for that. TB just kind of wipes his ass if he's a bad Shen.
Yeah.
My thing with it is the old Shen had a way to farm if he was losing lane, and he still had a way every once in a while to at least throw a ranged thing out, and he lost that. Even, no matter what they do with his ult, I think that even if they lowered the actual damage value of the Q itself, if they turned Q into an auto reset or at least made it increase the attack speed while it's active, especially later in the game, makes him a little bit more useful, because his laning phase is just kind of right? Like, there's not much.
I personally feel like it has to be, though. Like, I actually think Shen is totally balanced the way he is right now.
No, because I think if they nerf his ult range, but they make some of his other abilities more rewarding, then I think that they have an advantage there. I do think his base stats need to be up a little bit, at least at anything. But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, man, as a compensatory.
When you tweak base stats in pro play, pros immediately abuse them.
Well, okay, and see, here's the thing
of change.
When it's Worlds, I'm totally okay with them being screw the game itself. We're gonna focus on Worlds because this is our big marketing tool too.
Sure.
I'm okay with it around Worlds more so than I am at other times in the season. And it's hard. I mean, there's not much they can totally do about it. But I honestly, if you're a skilled Shen player, the reasons that the win rate is low are not necessarily low base stats. The reasons the win rate's low on Shen players is because they don't know how to play Shen, in my opinion. That's what I think. And so if you know what you're doing with Shen, you're going to be fine.
Your team doesn't know how to play with Shen. That's
I
why.
I
think that's a lot more of it. Is so when Shen is good in lane and when he can actually lane, he's overpowered because Shen has the ult built in. So Shen, to me, where people are complaining, oh, his laning sucks and he has all these problems, and it's yeah, but he has his R. So you get to pick. So I would put this out to all the Shen players, and I would ask Liger this if he was on the cast right now. I would say, if you had to choose, right, where they took his R away, and they made the range set, because he doesn't actually say that here. He doesn't say whether or not he'd be okay with the range limit. And I would love to hear this. Would you rather that they put the range limit in and he'd be better in lane? Because personally, if I was a Shen player, and if I start picking up Shen for rank 5s, I would never play Shen ever if they didn't make his R global ever. I don't think he'd be any good.
Yeah, my problem with them making it not global is they're starting to water down Shen's identity as a champion.
Right.
It's that's his core strengths. That's what he's supposed to do. The only problem is if he's so good at that, because it is such a strong mechanic in the game, the other areas of the game he needs to be weaker than average on. Because if he's even remote the average in his playing phase or his ability to do whatever, you just get so much value off it, and you have such a core, strong thing that's been proven that it's extremely valuable in this game, and then give him basically the ability to do almost anything else.
Yeah.
There's no reason to pick him. So it starts to edge out those other picks too.
Exactly, and that's what top lane is. You're up there putting pressure, but then also joining team fights late, and Shen's just the best at it. So he can't be a good laner too. Exactly.
Well, and I'll end this I'll end my opinion on this with another one, because I play Rek'Sai, a champion that's been being nerfed into the ground pretty much since release, right? And her win rate's actually pretty low across the board, and even though a lot of high elo players have always prioritized her. In the link to the Riot boards that we have from Liger that he provided us, they say that the person that posted it said that his win rates dropped to 45.28% for the player base, who on average have played about 42 games. At 42 games with Rek'Sai, I had a 42% win rate. Yet now at 80 games with Rek'Sai, I have almost a 60% win rate and over a 4 KDA.
Yeah.
If you learn your champion and you learn the strengths and you play to those strengths well, your win rate will be typically higher than just an average player who's not playing to get better and just playing to have fun and just play Shen to play Shen.
I would agree, and I think that Shen, I actually feel like I'll kind of the last point that I would make is I actually feel like the Shen rework is a failure along the lines of the Kog'Maw rework, where they tried to give him update him and make him interesting and make him interactive, because that's why they took away the ranged poke, because they were like, man, Shen's lane phase is super boring, where he just Qs you 1,000 times or he Qs the minions, and it was super lame, right? And they tried to do the same thing with Kog'Maw because they were like, well, it's really lame. Like the Kog'Maw can only do things like maybe we'll make a machine gun and like, you know. So I actually felt like Riot sort of missed, like they swung and missed like on this, where they were too scared to take away what made Shen Shen and like make it interesting. Because I feel like as long as Shen has his R, because I actually have this same, and I tie this to like I play a lot of Rengar, and I think that as long as Rengar has his R, like he's always going to be like sort of held back because of that R. And I think Shen's always going to be the same way, where as long as Shen has the R that he has, he's always going to be in this weird state if he's either broken or he's balanced. And I would rather him be exactly where he is right now because I think he's good in pro play. And, you know, the solo queue.
And he's still great in teams too. Like he's great in fives. So,
agree. So
yeah. All right, let's move on
to the next one. Kind of beat that one in.
Yeah. Right. Do you want me to read? I'll read the next one. Next question is from Dragon Guy. He writes in. He says, "As I'm learning the top lane currently, what's a good time to teleport? Should I just go for opportunities if I see one, or should I wait and come in later?"
So, Contractor, I think you should answer this one because obviously I am a new top laner and I probably answer exactly the wrong way.
Yeah, bot lane also gets TP'd on more than literally anywhere else. Really, so it does require a little bit of communication, or basically just kind of proper play from your bot lane. But if they're not doing that, you need to kind of tell them. But basically, like if they're pushed in and you have any form of CC, and they're obviously they're at a relative life total to be able to follow up on your gank, it's probably a good idea to teleport to them. If you see a great opportunity where they're pushed too far, you have a ward behind them, you have CC, and your bot lane has ability to follow up on you. That's a solid gank. Like that opportunity and that high chance of actual kill in the enemy bot lane is something that your jungler looks for all the time, and he only gets so few of those a game. And it's especially important because people, when they see the jungler, people usually play pretty sloppy. They know that the jungler's nowhere near them. They know that they're not going to be able to gank for them, so they usually push up. You know, they go aggressive for those trades. If they have a strong laning phase, they try to fight the enemy bot lane a little bit more, and they push up further than that. And if especially you have that ward behind them, that's an instant opportunity. If the enemy top laner cannot interrupt you, you should TP and take that opportunity, and it's likely a kill.
Yeah, and I would actually argue that like relatively early in the game is when you want to be trying to make those plays, because especially late in the game, like, you know, those situations where you're like splitting and you're trying to TP and like try to get to the fight, man, a lot of times that fight's over before you even get there. And like that has to be a much more coordinated thing. Whereas the bot lane thing, a lot of times you just have to wait till they start fighting. You know, just wait till they start fighting each other and then push TP and you're good. You know, and everything is good. So
well, and here's the thing. It used to be big that you try to leave a ward behind in, you know, one of the bot brushes behind them so that when they're pushed up, you can gank and you can TP directly behind them. Now they see your TP regardless of where it is. So, you know, if you're going to set up the play, you can tell your bot lane to just ward the lane as normal almost and TP to river or TP to the lane itself, because either way, their bot lane is still going to see your teleport at the range. And as long as you coordinate with your bot lane, it's fine. The biggest thing that I would say with teleport, whether it's late game or early game, is master looking at the bot lane very quickly, whether it's using the function buttons that quickly, you know, let you see your teammates, whatever it is. Make sure that you're watching. If you're looking for teleports, you need to be constantly watching and not just focused on your screen and what's happening in your lane. You need to be looking as well at that bot lane. Coordinating that teleport for you between your lane and their lane can actually be really hard, because I've had TPs canceled where I thought I was looking at my lane, their laner appeared while I was watching the other fight and you know, canceled my TP with CC. So with like a stun or something. So
this is another one of those things that's like, it depends too, right? So
yeah,
I mean, if you're somebody that only brings damage, right? So say you're Mordekaiser, you know, this happens to me a lot where I'm top lane and I'm shoving it in and like, you know, bots like engaged on and maybe the jungler's down there. Like sometimes like I don't bring a ton of CC. Like I'm not going to save you when I get down there. Maybe I don't have my rallies yet. You know what? I'm not coming. But if I'm Maokai, you know, or I'm somebody like, even like almost a Darius where I can get down there and I can help. Like I can do something, or a Malphite where I can get down there and like, oh, I have a game-changing ult that can like turn this around. So I think that happens a lot, like Jax a lot. I think there's times where like, yeah, Jax can come and he can try to fight them, but like if he's like level 6, level 7, can Jax like, turn that fight around? Maybe not. Like, whereas like Malphite, like those guys are going to get in there, slow the game down. Maybe you get a kill, maybe you get a second one. So I think it has a lot to do with like the comp. Like, do you have CC to stop them from just running from your teleport?
Yeah, and if you do only provide damage, it's also very important to be able to bring TP for those bot lanes that do have CC.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if you have like a Thresh or a Braum or whatever, like someone who has fantastic amounts of CC, then yeah, you can TP with just damage as Mordekaiser, because you really only need to do so much until you either proc that CC or you slow them down enough to be able to get their damage off, and they'll die regardless.
Yep.
If
they have a Thresh and he's just throwing hooks. This is my super common like top lane tip is if they have a Thresh, all you have to do and they push, just wait till he lands the hook. Because the second he lands the hook, trust me, he's taking it. All right? He's going in. He's going in because I play Thresh like if I'm like crushing a bot lane and I'm just like punching him in and it's like level 4, level 5, like I'm just looking. I want that hook. Like especially right at 6, like I'm looking to go in, flay them, box. Like I want to duke it out, right? And man, the second he lands that hook, you can just TP right behind him. Trust me, he's not paying attention. You're in there.
My biggest piece, 2 pieces of advice for learning top lane and learning how to teleport is your objective for games currently while you're learning top is I need to make one good teleport play this game. And if that's your goal for the game, whether you win or lose, like whether if it's a normal, like look for that play, because if that's your goal, then you'll remember to do it and look for it. The other thing I would say is if you hesitate, it's probably too late. You need to be decisive with teleport. So if you're thinking about teleporting, the longer you think about it, the smaller that window of time gets, especially with teleport being on a 4-second channel now instead of a 3. So if you're thinking about teleporting, teleport.
Very, very relevant.
So that would be my thing. A, make it your goal to teleport more, because you'll start to recognize immediately what is a good TP and what's not based on past experiences. And then B, if you hesitate, it's too late. Just commit.
Yeah. Or, I mean, just remember you can always cancel the teleport. Like, that the teleport nerf, you know what it led to? Is not me teleporting less, it's me taking the teleport less. That's the only difference. Like, I still push the teleport button almost as frequently as I used to, maybe more. But now that you have a lot more time to evaluate, like, am I actually going to take this teleport? Like, am I actually going to go all the way through with it? Because you're better off just hit the button and see what happens and then figure it out. And then the only way you learn when to make a good teleport is make a bad one. And then it's like, well, that
off the list.
That was useless. Never do that again. Yeah. And then just feel so gross because you're down there and you can't even hold the lane, and now your top laner is just shoving in, and he gets like a full level up on you, maybe 2, and it just feels awful. So, like, if your ADC gets deleted in the time that you were channeling teleport, you'll probably just want to cancel teleport if you don't bring damage. Like if your team, if by the time that you land, it's going to be like a 2v5, and you're on the side that has 2, you probably just want to cancel and get what you can where you are. Yep. That's, I think, so. Those are some examples, but yeah, I think that's solid.
Yeah. Benson, you want to read the next one?
Yeah. So this is a short one. This one's from Rescued, our winner from last week, actually. So congratulations. Where do you think are the most important places to ward? And I think like it's interesting because like for top lane, it's like, hey man, ward the bush. Easy, done. Like, ward the river bush, bro. It's easy, right? But I think the junglers and the supports are going to have much, much more input on this one. So,
except I kind of almost disagree with even that traditional place to ward top lane with. Okay. I think it's a good ward, but especially if you're winning lane and have the time, warding a bit below the bush, or warding, in further down closer to scuttle.
That blue buff entrance, that's where I like to ward too. Yeah.
That's a great place to ward because you can see them earlier. Sometimes with junglers like Zach, if they're in that bush, you're probably already dead. Like straight up. But if you can see them before they get there, you can run. But so I think wherever you think that the ward will give you the most valuable information is the best place to put it.
So let's just simplify this one down. Like, so when you're bot lane contractor, like, where are you putting your wards? Like, where are you putting them?
It depends on. So if this is especially true with pink wards because you have to be very, very careful with your pink wards. If I'm in a lane that's like Lucian Thresh, I'm almost not going to buy pink wards if I'm not a lane that can either fight them or poke them out very easily and take control of the lane. Because what happens is if we're sitting at the same life totals, because I can't effectively poke them out because I'm playing like Janna or Karma, someone who doesn't really do a lot of that damage enough in their early game to be able to keep them low, they provide so much pressure just because of the champions that they are that if I put a pink ward and they go to pressure that pink ward, I can't 2v2 them, so they're just going to kill it. So that pink ward is completely useless. So what I'm gonna do is I'll just buy the green wards and not worry about it, the trinkets, and I'll let them push into me because I obviously can't aggress on them. And I'll only say if I'm bot side, I will only ward Tribush, or if I'm top side, I will only ward the River Bush. Now, obviously, you need to use some of your trinkets on the bushes to someone like Thresh be able to get that advantage off that. But it's really and. The opposite is also true. If I'm in a lane where I can poke them out, I can get the initiative and stay on top of them like that. I'm always gonna if I'm bot side, I'm gonna push them in. I'm gonna pink ward the river bush if I'm bot side, because then I'll prevent them from having vision at all except for behind their tower.
I gotcha. Okay, so aggressive. You're buying more pink wards because you know you're going to be aggressive, and you can engage on them when they try to take them.
Exactly. I can afford to defend them.
So. That's good. Okay, so what do we think for mid lane? Even though none of us are mid laners, really.
I ward the entrances when I play mid. Like, the entrances right around the lane?
Entrances, if you've got early, warding their chickens is really good. It's a great ward.
Yeah.
Those are good ones.
It either needs to be in the entrances or it needs to be in commonly known gank spots for specific junglers. Like if I'm laning and I know that the enemy jungler is a Zac or a Shaco, and I know a lot of the places they want to jump on me from the chickens or the wall, depending on if I'm pushing up in the lane a little bit or not, and they'll have opportunity that, or if I'm bot side, I want to ward over the wall and not necessarily in the side bush of the lane because I know the Shaco is just going to queue over that wall and come in on me anyway. So it's one of those things where I think it's the important places to ward for mid lane are usually only jungler dependent.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's what I mean is like I ward those entrances because that's where the jungler comes from,
Yes. Yep. They want to come behind you, they want to come beside you, or if there's like a Zac or a Shaco, they gank from a very odd angle to ward those places.
Arc Second, who's currently rank 3 on the Challenger ladder in NA, released a good warding video, so look that up. Because he talks about some other places that are good, like that little bush that's on both sides of the river. That's between Scuttle and the lane.
Yeah.
He says and I think this works if you're dealing with a farm heavy enemy jungler who's looking to just power farm 6 or whatever. A ward there when they're not looking to gank can give you information about just where they are. So I think that's a good one as well. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, it's a super in-depth topic. I mean, like, I would strongly suggest. I think I was going to point to the Arc Second video too. That guy is really good, and he has played a ton of solo queue games. And I strongly suggest finding that video. Maybe we can put that in the show notes, and you can check that guide out because he actually has one for a lot of lanes. I think he has a mid lane guide. I think he has a jungle guide too. But that's where I learned to ward this season. Yep. So I would strongly recommend looking at that video.
And I'll just end top lane. The river bush is good. The tri bush is good. If you're an aggressive, like if you have the aggressive laner and you're the one pushing and you have time, like you're crushing your lane, sneak into the red side jungle and leave a pink ward just above their red buff. Not in any of the bushes that are touching the red buff wall, but the one that's like in between the Krugs and
that's a sneaky ward. That's a sneaky ward spot where it'll sit there for like the entire game and they never notice it. Yeah,
and you'll because if you're aggressing top lane, you have that pink ward there. You'll know when their jungler's doing red, and that signals a lot for your team. Because if you're crushing your lane, you're trying to help your team now, and that's one of the ways you do it by deep wards.
Yep.
So
so I think hey, look up some videos. They're all out there. But I think that's a quick good tip. So all right, so Projector, you want to read this next one?
Yeah. So Snugglebutt69 says,
what a great name.
What a fantastic name. He says, I know every jungle has a problem with the farm versus gank conundrum. I was just wondering what your thoughts are on how to balance farm and ganks pre-minute 20. I often find myself ganking too much, and mid-game team fights I tend to be very far behind quickly, especially if I have 2 or more lanes losing.
All right. So I'll kind of start on this one because I used to have this problem like pretty heavy. It depends a lot on the jungler that you're playing. This is another one of those depends. So like, what is your champion good at? You know, if you're Lee Sin or you're a Elise and you're that type of champion, like you should be ganking more than you are farming. If you are Nocturne, your early 6 ganks are not very good, you know? So like
they're trash. They're
like,
worthless.
They are pretty terrible. So like, hey, there is a lot of that. So you should inherently, if you are jungling a lot, you should inherently know that, right? Because there's a reason you pick that jungler. And if you don't, then you're picked a champion for the wrong reason. Go back. We did a podcast about, you know, how you should pick champions, but you should know when you pick that champion, like why I picked it. Like I picked Lee because I want to pressure the map like really early, and you're not pressuring the map by farming your chickens, you know? Yep. What I would say, though, is that unless, and a lot of junglers use this, unless there is a strong chance that you can win that gank, unless you can get a kill, or there is a strong reason to gank a lane, like this guy is really weak early, and I need to shut him down, or in the side of that, my laner is very weak, and I need to relieve pressure from him, or he is going to get dove. You should be farming, right? Because farming, and this is maybe a simplification, which we're going to get into in a minute, but farming is free gold, and kills are maybe gold.
They're risks, yeah.
You know, and maybe the jungler is there, maybe he isn't. But when in doubt, just farm. Like, a lot of people think, like, Zach is a really good example, and Zach is very strong and in the meta right now, and Zach has insane ganks, right? But Zach is a farming jungler. Like, I actually had a conversation on Twitter the other day where somebody crushed a game. He went like 11, 3 and 20, and he just dominated the game, and he got like an A+. And he was like, how do I get an A+ on this? And I'm like, well, because it's a 35-minute game, and you have like 90 CS. You know, and that, yeah, you won the game, and that's cool, but like, you need to be farming. Like, Zach is an excellent farmer. Like, he farms very well. You could have had way more gold and maybe a little less kill participation, but won the game just the same. Gold is jungle gold is free. Just take it. It's there. You know.
I have 3 pieces of advice on this that I because I recently looked into this topic a lot. And the first thing I think is, as a jungler, you need to have a plan of where you're trying to go. Are you trying to go bot side? Are you trying to go top side? Are you trying to go mid? What's your plan? As a jungler, I think you need to know where you want to be 1 to 2 minutes in advance. So if and then farm your way there, and always farm linearly. So if I'm looking to gank top, I'm not going to go Gromp, blue, wolves, and then go top. I'm going to go wolves, blue, Gromp, and then go top. I'm going to try to end my farming route closest to the lane that I'm trying to gank. So, and if I'm always farming linearly, it means that I'm not doing blue and then wolves and then Gromp, because that's wasting time. If you jungle, time is of the essence. Getting your abilities on all 3 of the jungle creeps, or both of the jungle creeps at the same time, like whatever you can do to clear that camp as fast as possible and as efficiently as possible, you should do. So farming linearly and farming toward the place that you're trying to get to, I think will help you increase your farm numbers significantly.
Yeah, have a plan. You know, watch. I think one person that I would point out, like as a good example of this, is you should watch Meteos' stream. So if you haven't watched Meteos, it feels like Meteos, all he does is farm, right? Like, it's like, God, all this dude does is farm. Like, that's all he does. But the thing is, Meteos is always farming towards something. Like, he's farming, I want to pressure top. So he's like farming toward top. Or like, I want to be around dragon at this point. So he's like moving down the map to get there. And Meteos like blows my mind because like his CS numbers are insane. Like they're insane. But it feels like he always fights. Like he's fighting all the time. And I'm like, how does he get the CS number? And it's just because it's just efficiency. Like you said, he clears the camp super fast. He has a clear way of the where he's going, like what he's trying to do.
Yep.
Be like
James, do you have any thoughts?
Channel your Meteos.
I have played jungle less than 15 times in the course of 6 years, so
okay, no, that's fine.
No, I have very little input.
Okay.
And so good example. Your bot laners, what they think you should do is not what you should do all the time. Okay, because I'm gonna tell you what James is gonna tell you if you ask him this question. You should be ganking bot lane, you moron. Stop farming them chickens. Get off them Krugs. Come gank this lane so we can roll these fools, right? And that's all they'll tell you all the time because they want to win their lane. They have their own objective in mind. And you as a jungler need to have like the win in mind over individual lanes.
Yep.
Yeah, you need to have a clear understanding of what's the best factual way to win the game. Fuck the bot lane. Bot lane doesn't matter. No mid lane, not top lane. Who is going to win the game for you?
They're hitting mute, like just mute that guy that's screaming, spam ping it. Every jungler has dealt with this. Like you're farming, he's like, new jungler, all he does is farm. Ping, 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 ping.
Farm wins games.
And
Farm wins games.
Oh my God. Like for one, if you're going to jungle, get used to it because everybody knows how to jungle better than you. Every one of your laners. Okay? They know exactly what you should be doing at every second of the game. But like for the most part, I think this is all the rules that we're going to give, all the advice that we're going to give is very like situational. And there's always going to be like, well, unless this is the case. But in general, farm more than you gank. Especially the lower ELO you are. Like the more bronze, just farm all the time because eventually you're going to come out and just delete people. Because they don't farm at all.
Farming that much turns your jungler also into a win condition, which is very important. If I'm farming nonstop because I have no good gank opportunities, and all my lanes are getting dumped on, that turns a game where you have little chance to win into something you can work off of. Like if my jungler is not behind, he's doing really well, then we can group together, we can peel for him, we can CC for him, we can basically die for him to create opportunities to win the game and use him as a win condition. Jungler can just be the win condition, and sometimes when he have to do nothing but farm because he can't support anybody, that's what happens.
Yeah. And speaking of someone who played a ton of Nautilus jungle for a long time, there's nothing that feels worse when you are not, who cannot farm worth a flip. And your lanes are all behind because it's like, well, it doesn't matter because I can't win. And like, I have no chance. And like, so, I mean, again, I agree with that. Like having a win condition is important.
I will add this too. If you're behind, be farming because you will do nothing. You can't steal objectives. You can't do anything if your smite is less than theirs. If you're behind in levels, if you're behind in XP, you just need to be farming to stay as relevant as possible in relation to the enemy jungler. If you're behind their jungler, because if you can stay even in levels, you can 50-50 smite. But if you can't, then you won't be able to get steals if your team is behind. You won't be able to do much over neutral objectives. And the other thing is, you don't get XP and gold by sitting and waiting in a bush to gank a lane. Like, if you're behind, just farm, because that's where you're getting your XP, that's where you're getting your gold. You're not getting that from waiting or from walking directly from your fountain to your lane to try and force a gank. Farm, farm, farm.
Yeah, I actually think that's why like champions like Master Yi and Nocturne are actually really, really good starter junglers because they sort of take out the decision. Right? Like they take you can't screw up. Like you're supposed to farm all the time. Like they only do that. That's all they know how to do. Like they can't even gank really early. Master you can just run into a lane and it's like, here I am. And
they have obvious windows. Nocturne, you gank every 2 minutes that your ult is up. And you farm every for the entire 2 minutes that your ult is down. Like the windows are very clear for farming or ganking.
Exactly. So they're very binary and they make it simple. So
yep.
I think that leads to our next question. Why don't you read this one, Contractor?
All right, next question is from Just Casual.
Who's
Casual?
So Just Casual, real quick, he's actually from the Lola podcast, from the League of Legends Anonymous podcast. Super nice guy. Talk to him on Twitter all the time. You should absolutely go check those guys out. It's lolapodcast.com. They are super funny. So if you don't listen to that podcast, hey, go listen to them. They're sweet.
He actually had a question 2 weeks ago too, didn't he?
Yep.
Yes, he did.
All right, his question this week is actually the Baron versus Elder conversation was so amazing and entertaining. I really enjoyed the simplification of the decision. What other simplifications for the game do you have?
I think it's really funny that he says the simplification of the decision, where I literally just ranted about that for like 10 minutes.
It was glorious.
Why you should never take Elder over Baron, like ever, except in like 1 out of 100 scenarios, because
it was absolutely glorious.
You probably can't make that decision because you're not smart enough about League of Legends. So like, you should just take Baron, you idiot, like, because it's better like 99% of the time, right? Oversimplification. I think we've actually touched on a couple of those, like in this cast, and this is like a huge question, right? Like we could go through a ton of these. So maybe just like, what's one that you would give if like you had to give one simplification? How about Projector? Why don't you go first? Let's just do it that way.
One simplification.
Yeah. Maybe just for jungle. How about that? And we already did the Smite 'em one, because I was like, just take the blue one.
Yeah, just take blue.
Yeah. So
if there's no obvious gank, farm. Just farm. If there's no obvious gank, farm.
Yeah.
Straight up.
If you can't just go kill someone, just farm, dude. Like, it's easy. What about you? What about you, James?
Basically, just always keep yourself worded and when you have the opportunities for, especially if they're like a heavy gank jungler, because people, especially in the last 3 seasons, have loved to just camp the crap out of bot lane. If they gank you and they get anything off of it, you can sure as hell they're going to be back there for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah. Maybe even focusing on like, man, like, where am I warding, like paying attention. I would actually argue that I think the supports that play the vision game and maybe are a little weaker in the lane, like, you know, mechanically, I actually feel like those guys are almost more valuable, especially in solo queue, because there ain't nobody else paying attention to vision in solo queue. And like, those guys, like, man, they are the heroes. You know, it's like, oh, well, we know where their jungler is, so nobody died. Great.
Yeah. And it's funny because, like, when you get higher in the elo brackets, people know how to use the information that you get from wards, but they still don't really value producing the vision in the first place.
So they use it, but they don't make it. Like,
exactly. Like, they'll use it and they really appreciate it, and they'll get those opportunities when they know the jungler is in their top lane jungler or trying to get bottom or whatever, but they won't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the other one that I would say is like, man, I don't know, like from a top laner, like, as somebody who's like, I've been a jungler for a long time and I'm sort of like trying to learn how to top lane because that's what our ranked 5s needs. I would just say, like, hey man, I would think that one of the most important things in the game is just don't die. Like, just don't die. Okay? Like, everyone, like, we're gonna have these huge conversations about like all of these like really in-depth things, but I think the most important thing to learn, especially the thing that got me out of bronze, was like, hey, stop doing stuff that gets you killed, right? Like, because when you're dead, you're not getting experience and you're not getting gold. So when you have like a decision point where like, okay, what should I do here? And you'll see this in high MMR games very frequently. I've actually been noticing it a lot lately, is they are super like, if there's a question of whether if I could run into their jungler and chase this guy, but I don't know where their jungler is, they just turn around. Like, they just turn around. They don't even go. Like, they're just like, you know what? I'm not chasing that dude. Like, it's fine. Like, just try to take it. Like, and if you're having trouble, like, and you're tilting and things like that, just don't die. Just do whatever it is you need to do to not die, right? Because I've actually been having to lane against people much better than me. I have gotten very good at just not dying. So.
Yep, just don't die. Die less.
Don't die.
Very valuable skill.
Yep.
All right, we have a couple of these left, and I know we're running out of time, so
let's kind of breeze through these, right? So I'll go through. Do you want me to read this one?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
All right. So, hey, Benson, Projector and Contractor. I have 2 questions. I was wondering, how do you keep from building bad habits as you climb and identify bad habits once you're a higher, or prevent what used to be a good habit from becoming a fault? I think that's a super like in-depth question. I think that if you are no longer climbing, you have bad habits, and then I think very frequently you should take some time and reevaluate your replays and look, because stuff will stand out to you as you get better. So as you move up, you'll go, what you used to think was good is really bad, and you'll know it. You'll learn it. That's the easiest way to answer that.
Yeah. Watching your games can be very helpful. There's a lot of times where like you're just kind of like you'll die and you'll get pissed off and you'll blame a jungler or whatever, and then you look back at the replay and you just got outplayed.
Yeah, and then he goes on to he goes on to elaborate like I'm not high enough for rank to know, but like how do you scale your play style as you climb the ladder? What have you changed about? I think what it is like do it till it stops working, right?
Yeah.
And then when it stops working, like watch a replay and go, okay, like why didn't this work? Like why did we lose? I think a lot of people just don't know why they lose. And that's true of everybody. They lose a game. Like I can't tell you how many times we in Projector have played a game and we go like, what happened? Like how did we lose? Like what was that? And like if you're not looking at replays, you're never going to learn. So go back and watch a replay. You'll see it right away.
Yeah, learn what strategies you're using that are cheese strats for that elo. Nocturne is great in bronze, silver, and gold because people are out of position all the time. But the higher you go, the less effective that becomes. Because people know rotations better, they know to group better. There's nothing worse to Rengar or Nocturne than a team that collapses on their own ADC. That means that you can't target them, or an ADC that is not positioning out far away from his team. So, you just need to learn and understand, like, the strategy I'm using here is specifically for this elo, and every time that you're in a new division or a new tier, you need to say to yourself, what is the most effective way to climb in this elo?
If you're not climbing, you're doing something wrong. So go look at your replays.
Yeah. Like I mentioned a couple podcasts ago, how I got Diamond for the first time playing Soraka. When that happened, I was still an ADC main. I got to the point where I realized that mechanically I'm not a good enough ADC to continue to climb as efficiently as I wanted to in Diamond. So I started maining support instead. There was a certain time where I was like, I
can't carry these games anymore. Yeah.
Like I could, but it would take such a large time investment for me to be able to play ADC at the level to consistently climb that it was more valuable to me to learn support, which was easily transitioned to from ADC anyway because she has so much experience in the bot lane, and to just learn that because it is honestly so much more fun, and depending on what you like to do, which is to be impactful in the game, it's so much easier to do that as support than it is ADC. Because it's literally three to four people's job on the enemy team to kill you.
Yeah, and I think climbing is fun, right? So, like, if you're not climbing, go look at your replays and figure out how you can climb. Like, look at it and see what you're doing wrong. So.
Yep.
All right, so let's move on through the next one. I know a lot of people want to go, like, watch World, so...
starting as
we go. So real quick, I'll just run through this last question. So, Badger writes in and says, Hey, Rift, or Summoner Sift, huge fans. Questions for you guys. What do you do if you're playing 80 carry and your support roams and turns the lane into a 1v2? It's actually really funny because this actually straight up happened in our ranked 5s game. Because we had I had a sub like Smurf support playing in our games, and he straight up said like, I'm going to play Fizz support or I'm going to play Rengar support. And to be fair, he carried the bejesus out of the Fizz game, okay? But like, I understand that was somewhat frustrating for our ADC. So like, I think what the question would be, I think I'll let Contractor go on this one, but I would just say don't die, right? So
yeah.
You don't need, like, I know that as an ADC, it's so important for you to get to farm to be able to actually become at the level of relevance that you need to be to feel like an ADC, and that obviously will really stop you from doing that for quite a lot of time. But it's really important that you don't die. And if you're playing champions like Lucian that have basically an ability to like a spammable dash, whatever, just get the XP. Because it's so hard for you to die if you're just playing as careful as possible. Just get the XP, get what little farm you can, wait for them to push you into the tower, and then hope to God the jungler doesn't come dive you. Because if you're 3v1, there's nothing you can really do.
Yeah, just hope your support. I mean, in that game, the Fizz ran around, like snowballed the heck out of the rest of the map, and by the time I said, and he was just tilting off the face of the earth, like he was just like, I don't know what to do. Like I'm getting crushed down here. It's like 1-4, and I'm like, I was like 707 on Renekton, and I was like, dude, don't worry about it. Eventually we're going to group and I'm going to kill them all. It doesn't matter. And then what happened is we grouped, killed them all, and won the game. It was like, don't worry about it. Just hope that he's doing something valuable, try to play around it, and just don't don't die.
Yeah,
You know?
like there are certain choices that you can pick in your champion selection that can kind of compensate for that. Like you do play something that's like a Caitlyn or a Lucian that gives you the ability to 1v2 and we survive and not get completely zoned from XP and farm, and then you basically, I think it's kind of an asshole thing to do without communication with your ADC. But if they're just going to pick someone like a roam heavy bard or like a blitzcrank or a Leona who wants to keep ganking mid lane, you basically just have to deal with it. You do the best you can, you get what you can out of the lane, and you hope that they get value off of roaming and basically stunting your growth.
Here's the thing: if you know that your support is going to be someone that roams a lot, don't pick someone that depends on your support being in lane, like Kalista, where half of her kit becomes worthless if your support isn't.
I felt so bad for him.
Can you feel the anger seeping through? This happened.
No, but really, like if you think that your support is going to roam, and that was the case that we're talking about was very specific, and that's not on Badger. I'm not gonna.
No,
I don't want to put that on him.
No, of
but
course not.
In general, like if you've got a bard, if you've got like a Thresh, sometimes Threshes like to roam. You know, if you know that, or even ask in champ select, hey, support, are you someone that likes to roam a lot? You know, find out what you can so that you can make the best picks, so that you know that picking a Caitlyn, someone that can farm from range, picking a Lucian that has a dash, things that can survive in a 1v2 scenario, I think are really important.
Yep. So, all right. So those are the listener questions for this week. We really appreciate that. So who are we going with this week? I think actually that what question do we think was the best here? Yeah. So I think we chose Evan's question as the best, the one about, how do you climb and identify habits? I think that's really important. It's not, we didn't go into the most depth on it, but I think it's really important that learn to like pay attention to what you do, like, hey, it's focus on you. Like if you're climbing and like suddenly you stop, like look inward, my son, like look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. It's not everyone around you. It's not the garbage ELO you're at. It's not these new teammates holding you back. It's you. All right. And like, just look at what you're doing and switch it up. Don't be afraid to change it up. All right. So with that, like, we're going to go right into, so Worlds is happening. Everybody's super excited. Real quick, before we go, let's do the quick Worlds predictions so we can get them down in recorded form so that we can laugh about how bad they are later. And we're not going to go in depth on Worlds like groups.
Nope, just your picks.
We are not like, pro analysts, okay? So
let's just your picks.
Why we think
so Projector, give me your picks for groups. So we're going to need 2 from each group.
All right. So Group A, Rocks top, G2 second. Group B, SKT 1, and I think Cloud9 second. Group C, I think EDG and then H2K or AHQ, but I'm going to say H2K second. And then Group D, I think RNG is going to top it, and I think TSM is going to do second.
Wow, our picks are remarkably similar. So I'll actually go through. I'll go through my picks real quick, just because they're almost exactly the same as yours. I have G2 and CLG. Then I have SKT in C9. I have Edward and H2K, and then I have Royal taking that, of course, because I think Royal's going to just destroy TSM tonight. But I think it's going to be Royal TSM. I think the TSM is definitely. But I would say that and we'll go into this in a second. But let's pick one dark horse to win the whole thing at the end. So what do you guys
TSM
think?
Contractor, what are your
picks, buddy?
What are your picks?
My picks for the groups is Rocks G2 for Group A, SKT and C9.
Rocks is a different.
Yeah.
SKT and C9 for Group 2, AHQ first, and EEG for Group 3, and TSM and Samsung for Group 4.
Wow. Okay, so you don't think Royal's going to be in there? You don't think they're going to add a group? Wow.
Nah.
So, funnily enough, out of all the players, even though I think I actually pick Royal and TSM to get out of Group D, I actually think Samsung can win the whole tournament. I'm going to say that right now. I actually would not be surprised if I had to pick one team like that was like, like where did they come from? I think Samsung can win the whole tournament.
Is that your dark horse?
That's my dark horse pick.
My dark horse, and it's not really a dark horse, but it's kind of my prediction. Not even prediction. I just think EDG has a shot. I think they it wouldn't surprise me if they went all the way either.
Wow, big shocker. EDG.
Big shocker.
The second best team in the world might win World.
No, because I don't think I think they're probably one of the top 6, but I don't think they're the favorite. I would not put them up there. in my opinion. But
what about you, James? Dark horse.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. TSM.
I want TSM. I want TSM to win.
So bad, dude.
I'm so worried that their groups are going to be bad because they're terrible at best of ones and they're great in best of series.
I agree.
And I think RNG is the opposite.
Yeah,
I feel like if they get out of the best of ones, they have a legitimate shot. A very good one, but I think they have a legitimate shot.
Yeah, I agree.
The best of ones are notoriously bad at that.
Yeah, we'll see. So, I mean, those are our world's pick. All right, so that's a great cast. I think that's going to be the end of it. Thank you for stopping by and listening to episode 6. We really appreciate it. You can follow us everywhere. You can follow Summoner Sift on Twitter. You can subscribe and rate us on iTunes. You absolutely should, because we don't have enough reviews. We would love to have them because we want to get a star rating, and I'm sure it will be 1, but it would be cool to have the 1-star rating. You can follow us on Stitcher. You can follow us on twitch.tv/TheBenson with a 0. That's actually where we live cast the stream every week. You can also follow us on YouTube, same thing. We'll have all that in the show notes. So enjoy Worlds, folks. Have a great evening. We really appreciate you. Say goodbye, gents.
Take care.
Thank you guys so much for the questions. You guys have a good week.
All right. And keep sending them in. You can win $10 in LP.